year's South Dakota Showdown Series matchup certainly lived up to the hype. How's everybody doing? I'm Jay Elson, and this is Coyote Corner. After 3 years of playing mostly for pride, the dynamic of this year's battle between South Dakota and South Dakota State was totally different. This time, there were postseason implications on both sides. The fifth-ranked Jackrabbits were fighting for a first-round bye, while the Coyotes looked to move one step closer to securing their first-ever berth in the FCS playoffs. The Jackrabbits had outscored the Coyotes 49-0 in the first quarter of the previous 3 meetings, but South Dakota got off to a much better start this time. Ryan Sager to Brant Van Rukel, 40 yards for the touchdown. Van Rukel's 5th in the last 6 games, 7-0 Yotes. The Jacks answer with back-to-back scoring drives. Freshman Taryn Christian takes it in from 10 yards out. SDSU led 10-7 at the half. Yotes got it first to start the second, and they march it right down the field. Sager to his tight end, Aaron Ramsey down the middle. He steamrolls one guy on his way to a 43-yard pickup. 10 of those would be taken back due to a block in the back. Mike Frederick would get it all back and then some right here. Big gain off the left side. Frederick carried 31 times for a career-best 143 yards. Sager would finish off the drive moments later. The QB keeper puts South Dakota back in front, 14-10. Later in the third, now 17-10 Coyotes, and the defense makes a play. John Wessel picks off Christian and takes it back to the SDSU 27. That's the second career INT for Wessel. Despite the good field position, though, South Dakota forced to settle for 3. Miles Bergner connects from 45 yards. Yotes took a 20-10 lead into the fourth quarter, but the Jacks come storming back. Zach Lujan on in relief of Christian, and he and Jake Winicky clicked immediately. 34-yard pitch and catch down the sideline sets up a Kyle Paris touchdown, and on the next Jacks possession, it was deja vu. Lujan hits Winicky down the seam, this time 38 yards to serve it up for Paris again, and just like that, the Jackrabbits are back on top 24-20. Still plenty of time, though, for the Yotes at that point, but on the ensuing drive, Sager looking for Ramsey again, but the pass never gets there. Nick Farina picks it off and takes it back 43 yards for another SDSU touchdown, and that was the dagger. The Jackrabbits outscore the Coyotes 20-3 in the fourth quarter to win their 7th straight in the series, 30-23 the final. Lujan played a huge role in that comeback, completing 6 of 8 passes for 128 yards, all in the fourth quarter, while Winicky finished with 6 catches for 180 yards. Individually for South Dakota, we mentioned the big day for Mike Frederick. Sager, meanwhile, hit 26 of 46 passes for 266 yards, 1 touchdown, and 2 interceptions.
It's not the fact that the game hurts, but the fact that I couldn't do more for my teammates, regardless of the game that it is. It's SDSU, that's Youngstown State. No matter what the game is, all of them hurt, so I don't feel like this really hurt anymore. Obviously, it's a big rivalry game, but every game's just another game, I guess.
This is the closest we've played this, this South Dakota State team than we have in years in the past. So that shows improvement long term in the program. I think the seniors really stepped up, and younger guys really stepped up too to put this good team on the field this year against South Dakota State. But really, all that matters is wins and losses.
On a more positive note, Miles Bergner has been tabbed the Valley Special Teams Player of the Week for the 3rd time this season. Bergner converted 3 of 4 field goal attempts in the loss to South Dakota State, all of which were at least 45 yards. He also averaged just under 41 yards on 4 punts, pitting the Jacks inside the 20 on 3 of them. Bergner's head coach was disappointed with Saturday's outcome, but not with the effort his team put forth against the Jackrabbits. Our weekly conversation with Joe Glenn is coming up next.
Coyote Corner on Midcoast Sports Network is presented by Dakota Land Honda.
And welcome back to Coyote Corner, joined now down at the Dakota Dome by head coach of the Coyotes, Joe Glenn. And Joe, South Dakota State had jumped on you early in the 3 previous meetings. But you didn't let that happen this time. Forget the first quarter. You played right with this football team for the entirety of that first half. And how'd you feel about things at halftime?
We felt like we could hang in there with South Dakota State. We knew they're a good team, and we did hang in there. It was a extremely hard-fought game by both teams, and we just came up a little short. But to start out, you got a good fight right from the get-go. We moved the ball. We just didn't get in the end zone like we needed to. We got down into kick scoring, but I think we attempted 4 field goals, of which we made 3, all from 45, 45, and 50, and missed 1 from 48. One of those we need to drive into the end zone,
right.
2 of them maybe, and we'd have been a little bit better off.
Well, it was 10-7 Jackrabbits at the half, but a great start to the third quarter as Ryan Sager leads you on that 10-play, 80-yard drive to get you back on top. That you couldn't have asked for much better of a response from your team coming out of the locker room.
Yeah, I thought we made some good adjustments and got back to some things that were working for us. And Mike Frederick was having a really good day running the football. They were getting after it up front. So we were able to mix up the passing game with the running game, and that's when we're at our best, eating up the clock a little bit. I think for the day we had the ball about 10 minutes more than the Jackrabbits. But we got in the lead, and then it was trade back and forth a little bit, and fighting down to the wire.
Yeah, you'd add to the lead on a 50-yard field goal from Miles Bergner, and on the ensuing Jack's possession, you get a big play from John Wesley. Your linebacker picks off Taryn Christian, gives you guys good field position. Take us through that interception.
Well, I think he must not have seen John, or John was hiding. But anyway, he threw a ball that looked like it was pretty much right at John, and he caught the ball and set us up. And again, we don't convert. That's when you got to take it and nail it. And I think we got a field goal out of the deal again, but on this day it wasn't enough.
Yeah, that field goal made it 20-10 after 3 quarters. South Dakota State did make one big change after the interception. That came at quarterback. Zach Lujan came in, really seemed to give them a spark as he leads them on back-to-back scoring drives to start that fourth quarter. That put them back on top just halfway through that final frame, 24-20.
Lujan was the difference in the game. I thought Zach came in and stood right dead skunk in the pocket. They protected him well, and he threw strikes. The big guy,
Winneke,
oh man, was he good, and we just couldn't get an answer.
The backbreaker, you're down 24-20. I think the backbreaker really came on that next possession. Sager tries to stretch it out to Aaron Ramsey, but it turns into a pick six. Didn't look like everything was on that throw. Can you tell us what happened on that play?
Well, I think earlier in the game, Ryan Sager hurt his ankle and just wasn't getting any push. He wasn't the Ryan Sager that he is when he's healthy, with 2 good feet to plant and set and gun the ball. And because he missed some shots he never misses in practice or in games. I think he throws right at 58%, and he just missed a few throws, and I know it was his ankle. But on the particular play you're talking about where they intercepted for a touchdown, all of a sudden, the big guy from SDSU, Cole Langer, he starts getting some push up front, and he's moving us back. And on that particular play, we saw in our film where he reached up and just got a little bit on the ball, but it took enough of the spiral away, it took enough of the momentum away that it came down into their hands, and Farina ran it in for a touchdown. So
in the end, it's a 30-23 decision for South Dakota State. I know that result is disappointing. I know you're not a moral victory guy. Most coaches aren't. But at the same time, there's quite a bit you could take away from this football game.
There was over 10,000 people here. Great crowd, and I thought they all behaved pretty well, what I could tell from it. I didn't see anything fly on the field anyway. We had really a bunch of guys play well, and our defense held a run down throughout the day. We just couldn't get the rush on Zach Lujan to quit hitting the big guy.
Right. Well, so much emotion poured into a game like this, particularly one against South Dakota State. But there's one more game on the schedule, and it's a tough one at Illinois State. So how much emphasis are you going to be putting on this week, just finishing this thing out strong?
Well, we got to. We have a chance for a winning season. We have a chance to get what they call bowl eligible or pick eligible, just in case something would go haywire. But just because you wear the red and white and it's your last game as a Coyote for 15 seniors, and we want to go away feeling good about ourselves in the off season. So let's go down to normal and give it all we got.
All right. Well, good luck to you this weekend, Joe, and thanks again for your time this week. And we're going to have more on that regular season finale coming up in a bit. But first, we're going to close the book on South Dakota State. The Argus leader's McGary joins us next.
Coyote Corner on Midcoast Sports Network is presented by Dakota Land Honda.
Well, for South Dakota, it was a disappointing end to what was a very entertaining football game on Saturday, and several things stood out as to why things ended up the way they did. Here to help us make sense of all that is McGary, who covers the Coyotes for Argus Leader Media. And Mick, most of the numbers favored South Dakota on Saturday. The Coyotes had more total offense, more first downs. They were better on third down. They won time of possession. But the most important number, the final score, went to South Dakota State. The difference was the fourth quarter. The Coyotes led by 10 after 3, but they get outscored 20-3 over that final 15 minutes.
You got to start with the switch of quarterbacks for SDSU, and what a remarkable difference that offense. The effect there was right away. Pick 6, Nick Farina going 43 yards the other way was a huge thing, and that's 7 points that didn't have to happen. But when Lujan came in there, 2 quick drives, 2 quick scores, and it was a different ball game, and you could kind of see that maybe, this is the 5th-rated team in the nation here all of a sudden.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was a 10-point lead, and all of a sudden it was a 4-point deficit, and we'd only seen about 7 minutes of game time go off. And then, of course, the back-breaking pick 6, of course, that you mentioned, really kind of did it. Coyotes did muster a little bit of a push down the stretch, got the field goal, got the ball last, but just not enough to try and complete that comeback late in the game. Well, despite all the offense that South Dakota did muster, they only found the end zone twice, and the rest of the points came off the 3 Milesbergner field goals. So that goes to show you how far they were able to move the ball into Jackrabbit territory, just once in the red zone all day. And I think the one that hurt the most, though, was the one that came after that John Wessel interception, because I think if they turn that into 7 as opposed to settling for 3, I think maybe you and I are sitting here talking about a win instead of a loss.
It's been a problem that the Coyotes brought into this game with them to a certain extent. They have gotten some breaks. The defense has given them some breaks. The other team has just had unforced errors that have given them some breaks. And there have been several instances this year where you look like they're going to bring the hammer down now, and something happened and it didn't work out, and it affected the rest of the game. So I think that was kind of a problem this team has had occasionally, just not being able to deliver the offense in those specific situations has kind of hurt them a lot. Plus, you look at the Jackrabbits and how they played all year. They've given up some yards. They haven't given up too many points. So I think that's part of just the fact that maybe they're not the speediest team in the world, but once you get down to the 28-yard line, that breakout speed that you need on defense isn't quite as big a factor. All of a sudden, being in the right place at the right time is a bigger factor. They've been very good in red zone defense this year.
Finally, with the loss, the Coyotes' playoff hopes took a serious hit, but still plenty to play for this weekend at Illinois State. A win over the Redbirds would mean an above 500 finish. Considering the expectations people had for this team coming into the season, I think that's a huge step forward.
I think so. I think up to this point, win or lose, you could say it's a big step forward. The expectations around the program were not probably quite as high as within the program, and I think for those people, five wins is a pretty big accomplishment given what they were coming from. I also think that these guys are going to want to win a game for Coach Glenn here. There's obviously a lot of affection for that guy within the team.
Yeah, there is, and he's at 200, wants to get to 201. Just 76 guys in NCAA history have reached 200 wins in their career, so that is an impressive accomplishment, but give one more for head coach and a bunch of seniors that have really contributed to this program. All right, well, winning in Normal will be no easy task, and we're going to take a closer look at the Redbirds right after this.
Coyote Corner on Midcoast Sports Network is presented by Dakota Land Honda.
And welcome back. Well, if the Coyotes are going to finish the regular season above 500, they're going to have to figure out a way to knock off 6th-ranked Illinois State. The Redbirds are 8-2 overall and 6-1 in the Valley, with that one league loss coming at South Dakota State on November 7th. This team is loaded, particularly on offense, led by last year's Valley Newcomer of the Year, Trey Roberson at quarterback, and All-American running back Marshawn Coppridge. ISU currently ranks in the top 3 in the league in scoring, rushing, and total offense. Meanwhile, junior wideout Anthony Warham is the only guy in the Valley other than SDSU's Jake Winicky to average better than 100 yards receiving per game. Just a ton of weapons for Joe Glenn and the Coyotes to try and contain on Saturday, but the coach says nothing about it will intimidate his guys. They're going down there to do a job, and they intend to do it well.
I think we can totally get focused on this thing. The state thing didn't quite work, and it's behind us. We can't sit here and cry about it. We just got to go on to the next game, and we'll play hard. I know we will. Our kids respect the game, love the game, and they'll go down there and lay it on the line, I promise.
So South Dakota at 5-5 overall and 3-4 in the Valley takes on the reigning national runners-up on Saturday afternoon. Coyotes with the rare opportunity to snap the nation's longest home winning streak for the second time in a single season. Redbirds have won 17 straight at Hancock Stadium. Ironically, their last home loss came against North Dakota State on November 17, 2012. Well, less than a month after leaving the field in an ambulance, Sam McLaren is back with his football family. We'll look at the past, present, and future with the Coyotes' injured offensive lineman when we come back.
Coyote Corner on Midcoast Sports Network is presented by Dakota Land Honda.
And welcome back. Well, only weeks have passed since the Coyotes' Sam McLaren suffered a spinal cord injury on October 10th against Western Illinois. But while it appeared at first to be a blow that would take months to recover from, Sam's incredible drive and determination have him well ahead of schedule. Our Alex Heinert sat down with the redshirt sophomore from Iowa City last week.
Sam McLaren, you and I just walked over from football practice over at the Muck. We're here in the locker room. Is it crazy to think that a month ago, even that act is pretty incredible? This has been a wild month for you.
It's definitely been one of the more interesting months I would say I've had in my life. It's been a lot of ups, a lot of downs.
Let's go back to that day in October 10th in Western Illinois. What do you remember specifically about that play in the second quarter?
Okay, specifically from the play, I remember I was pulling around, we were running power to the left, and as I'm coming through, I see the linebacker coming over the top, and as I hit him, the lights kind of went out, and next thing I know, it was about a minute or two later as I kind of woke up, and it was fuzzy. And I remember looking at Doc, and Doc said, hey, can you straighten your left leg? And I said, yeah, of course. And then he said, can you straighten your right one? And I said, I thought I just did. Having my dad there was huge. Having my brother there was huge. Obviously, my coaches and teammates. I mean, this is exactly why I came here. It's one thing to say, we're a family. We do this as a family. I mean, we genuinely care about each other. I mean, I think that's what's getting us some progress on the field this year, especially. So. Yeah.
So when that play happens, you're numb on the right side of your body. You get airlifted to your hometown of Iowa City. What are people telling you? What are the doctors saying at this point?
It was obviously a kind of a prepare for the worst type of situation. The first few things I was hearing is, we're just going to have to get some scans. And so when I first got to the University of Iowa, that's what it was. So I actually had 3 fractures in my spine. And the biggest one was at my C7, so at the bottom of my neck. Everybody's kind of saying, it'll take 6 months to a year for you to even feel close to what you were, on Friday morning of that day. And so that was one thing that I really kind of held on to is just the thought of not being able to be, me. Obviously, that's a scary thought. And I've been able to progress, really quickly to a point of being able to be, a month out looking at it and be probably, I would say, 85–90% of just back to where I was at on Saturday morning or Saturday during that warm-up. It's crazy. It's great. I'm thrilled that I'm able to be back here. It's awesome.
There was a great video a couple days after the injury of you taking kind of your first steps again.
Yeah.
What was that like going through that process?
That was wild. The PT lady comes by and she says, do you want to go for a walk? I said, absolutely, I want to try to go for a walk. So I kind of sat on the edge of the bed and kind of got to stand up. And as soon as I stood up, it was like a release of all the kind of muscles in my back. That was really the biggest confidence standpoint for me, is able to walk about 4 or 5 days after it happened. It was amazing.
You mentioned the season and how special the season has been, and the week after the injury, this team goes up to Fargo and gets a win over the 4-time defending national champions. And you get a phone call after that game.
Oof. That was one of the best experiences I've ever had in my life. As we were sitting there, as Bergie kicks that thing through the uprights, I was celebrating, I was jumping around. About 10 minutes later, I got a FaceTime, and we do this chant in here that, I'd rather be a Coyote than anything else chant, and just to be a part of that from a long ways away was, amazing for them to think of me like that, and it was amazing. It It was amazing. I can't thank those guys enough for letting me be a part of that. It was awesome.
So initially, it looked like you were going to be back home going through rehab for the duration of the semester, but in 3 weeks after the injury, you're back in Vern with your team.
Yeah.
If you didn't know the story, nobody would have any idea that you had been injured like that just a month ago.
Yep.
So you've made such progress. What's next for you?
What's next right now is just trying to stay healthy. I'm going to be keep rehabbing here, keep working at my strength, keep working at some fine motor stuff with my hands. My next step is definitely going to be, obviously I'm done for this year, but I should be able to work out after that winter break. So after we get back from Christmas break, I should be able to go with the guys. I should be able to do everything that we're doing in winter workouts, and we'll see what happens. Optimistic, obviously, hopeful. Sometimes it's not in the cards. Sometimes it is. The thing I've been just kind of holding on to is the progress I've made. Hopeful that I'll get another chance to kind of get out there again, but I'm happy to be a part of this team, and I'm happy to do whatever I can to help those guys, and I love everything that's happened. It's kind of a crazy thing to say, but I wouldn't want it to be any other way. That's for sure.
That's some pretty powerful stuff. Thanks to Sam for doing that interview, and all of us here at Midco SN certainly want to wish you the best in your continued recovery. All right, that is our time for this week. For Alex Heinert, I'm Jay Elson. We'll see you back here next Tuesday night for another episode of Coyote Corner.